What's good, music producers? It's Curtis King of Airbit.com here today to explain to you a few ways of how to study your favorite music producers just a tad bit better than you have already.
Airbit.com.
Music producers, if you're anything like me, you love to consume behind the beat video footage. I love watching producers get to work. I love seeing them go from, something as simple as a weird synthesizer sound, and then they warp it and they send it through one of the filters, and then all of a sudden it turns into this other sound, and then they add these strings, and then they add the drums, and all of a sudden it becomes a groove that I could not even predict it would become. I love watching those type of videos. One that I saw recently was for the Travis Scott Antidote. I watched that particular behind the beat, and I'm just like, wow, it's amazing how something that had such an impact when me listening to it was just a few instruments. You watch the producer, and I think a lot of producers sometimes kind of put on when they do this, but maybe this is kind of his steez, but he's kind of, really laid back and was just like, I just put this sound, this worked, I got with Wonder Girl, this happened, and he was really kind of like lax about it. And what I noticed is that there are things that you can study even amongst those videos. They give you more than enough, because in this day and age, every producer I feel like has had at least one behind the beat video that's been up there on YouTube. If you don't know for yourself, you should be posting those up as a producer, even if you're just getting started, because whatever you have learned, you can teach to somebody else who just got started the day before you. So going with that mentality, but one thing that I want to share with you today is how to model somebody, and I'm going to use the model or the strategy from the self-proclaimed life strategist and one of my favorite human beings on this earth, Tony Robbins. He has this particular three-step, method towards modeling someone else's success. Now, that doesn't mean trying to live somebody else's life. That doesn't mean anything else except for trying to model the particular thing that you think is great about them. You could do this with your friends, your family. You model the thing that is great about them, and you model it for yourself, into where you may not have the same exact results, but you can at least step your level up, and you can at least step your skill level up. Here's the things that you want to pay attention to. Tony Robbins breaks it down into 3 different points of focus. Now, the first thing that you want to try to figure out is a human being's belief system. Now, if you figure out this producer who's sitting down there, they're making the beats, and when they say things like, when I put my 808s down, I got to make sure that these things hit hard. I got to make sure everything I got just hits hard. If it's not slapping, then I don't want to be no parts of it. It has to. So his belief system is that a beat is not sufficient enough if it does not have a certain level of rumble in the 808. It doesn't have a certain level of strength in the drums, or strength in the actual composition itself, or the expression of sound. It has to be hard for him. You have to pause that, but you get what I'm saying. So that's his particular belief system, his or her, because it could be female producers as well. It may be somebody who sits there, and as they're playing the keys, they say, I always try to figure out, what emotion do I want to evoke? And it has to be something where at the end of every chord progression, there's sort of a stamp on the end of that. You don't have to know any music theory to understand that concept, that, if you have a melody that goes dun 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 dun, you know where to go from there once you hear the first few notes. So if that is the belief system, start there. The second thing you want to understand, mental syntax. Follow me. Syntax is basically the order in which somebody does something. So if you have somebody who is making a beat and they say, I always start off with the kicks and the snares, or I always start off with the piano melody, or I always start off with some pads and some pretty chords. You follow that particular system, that particular order, I should say, and you figure out, once you understand the belief system, you'll understand why they choose the order they choose. If somebody is heavy into 808s, they're probably going to do very minimal with the melodies because they want to get to those 808s. So that being said, figure out the mental syntax. The third thing that you want to figure out, and sometimes this is the most overlooked, but one of the most important, is study their physiology. Okay, when I say physiology, study the way that they use their body when they're making a beat. Now, obviously, we don't always get the most accurate depiction of somebody when they were making the beat. But if you happen to catch a producer who's in a groove and maybe they recorded this particular beat as this producer was working and as it was coming together and it ends up being a hit, study that video. Those behind the scenes or behind the song videos you see of Kanye West, look at his body, look at the way he's moving. Even when you think about Fade to Black with Jay-Z and he was showing you sort of how he kind of sits there and lets the thoughts come back to him. He's not jumping around trying to get lyrics and trying to figure things out. He's letting it come to him because he knows that too many distractions probably are going to mess around with the flow of his lyrics and the fact that he's not writing down, he's just doing this. This is part of his physiology. So understand the physical nature. So if you got a producer who just kind of sits like this, and they make laid back beats, you kind of understand why they sit like that and they make up, laid back beats. But if you get a producer who they got the head nod and they're doing that, I know it may sound silly, but just duplicate it and do it for yourself. See what it makes you feel. Because if you believe what somebody believes, if you do it in the order that they do it in, and if you assume their physiology, if you assume their physical stance, you will be able to, on some level, duplicate that success. I highly, highly suggest it. It's something that I do with my favorite producers. It's something that I do when any walk of life. If you got, a friend that's just really good at making friends, you should do the same thing. Model their belief system, model their mental syntax or the order or their system. And then at the same time, model their physiology and you'll understand it. If you can understand why somebody does all the things they do, you would feel the way they feel. And if you understand their belief system, you would know why they did what they did. So that being said, follow those 3 things. Keep it in mind. Try not to overthink it or be like, Curtis, why you throwing syntax at me? We talking about beats, man. Try not to get too frustrated with it. Try it out and let me know how you think of it. Once again, this is Curtis King of airbit.com. Have a good one.
Airbit.com.
Music producers, don't forget to subscribe to the Airbit channel right now.